A young man urinated on the Buddha head, not expecting the statue in the temple to shed 2 lines of bloody tears. The monk saw this, and immediately felt something was wrong, because a weeping statue foretold something bad was about to happen. At the same time, an elderly woman working in the field suddenly noticed black rain falling from the sky. Curious, she stood up to look, and the previously clear sky instantly became overcast. Little did she know, these strange occurrences were all related to that Buddha head. It turned out that just last night, the villagers of Jinyang village unearthed a Buddha's head during construction. The Buddha's head is approximately 3 meters tall, with eyes wrapped in cloth filled with Tibetan script, giving it a very eerie appearance. However, when the Buddha head was unearthed, crows from miles around flew over, but the village chief did not notice anything wrong. Instead, he believed this was a treasure bestowed upon Jinyang village by the heavens, so he wanted to profit greatly from the Buddha head. Little did he know, this foolish decision would bring a great disaster to the villagers of Jinyang. The next day, the village chief arranged for his men to transport the Buddha head to the exhibition hall for display. Before departing, the young man washed the Buddha head with clear water, but at some point, the cloth wrapped around the Buddha statue's eyes suddenly disappeared. However, the young man didn't pay it any mind. After cleaning the Buddha head, he drove to the exhibition hall. After delivering the Buddha head, the young man visited a restaurant, intending to have a small drink to relax, but he suddenly felt his eyes were dry and itchy. Thinking there was something dirty in his eyes, he went to the restroom to wash them. However, at that moment, he suddenly heard a familiar voice from behind. Turning his head, he saw it was his father who had died many years ago. His father opened his mouth and asked him for money. The young man broke out in a cold sweat and, in a panic, he pushed his father to the ground and quickly fled from the restroom. But as soon as he escaped, his father instantly appeared in front of him again. The young man was so scared that he fell to the ground and saw his father slowly approaching him with a suddenly ferocious expression on his face. In a panic, the young man picked up a bottle and smashed it at his father, then went berserk, pinning his father to the ground and beating him. When the young man came to his senses, he discovered that he had actually beaten up the restaurant owner, who was lying on the ground, barely breathing. Not long after, the policewoman received a call saying the driver had suddenly gone mad, and as the station chief, she quickly headed over. The woman hurriedly drove to the police station, but suddenly it started hailing, shattering her car window. Meanwhile, a taxi was approaching from the opposite direction, and the driver was the man who had seen the Buddha head earlier that day.
My goodness, there is an evil spirit. Everyone, come back!
Fortunately, the policewoman sharply turned the steering wheel and avoided it just in time. She didn't think much of it and finally arrived at the police station. But as she got out of the car, she saw that the fallen hail looked eerily like human faces. When she saw the driver's crazed appearance, she was startled. Her whole body trembled, her eyes rolled back, and then she fainted, foaming at the mouth. As the policewoman approached to check, the man suddenly lunged forward like a mad dog. With great force, the man's collarbone was pulled apart. Taking advantage of the situation, Shujin subdued the man and sent him to the ambulance. Meanwhile, the villagers, noticing that their crops were corroded by the black rain, prepared to hold a strategy meeting at the prefectural pavilion. A woman who had just arrived fixed her gaze on that eerie statue, the Buddha's head. It turns out the woman's husband is an archaeologist. A few days ago, a monk found Awe and told him that the unearthed Buddha statue is a ghost Buddha, inhabited by a most vicious evil spirit. He must find it quickly, and asked Awe to investigate the meaning of the sutra on the gauze. At night, Awe opened the photo of the Buddha head, but was clueless. Having no choice, he sent it to his ex-wife, Shujin, who is also an archaeologist. They began living separately after their daughter accidentally passed away. When Shujin saw the photo of the Buddha head, she noted down the Tibetan script, and the final meaning was to not look into the eyes of the Buddha statue. But by this time, Shujin had already arrived at the county pavilion.